Welcome back to the PvP Live Studios. I'm Tannen Grace, he's Nathan, that's Alvaro Zamora, and you're watching HPL. We just saw ErA go up 2-0 in his match over Jab here with some awesome decks, queuing up a Priest deck and then a Hunter deck, winning the Hunter Mirror against Jab, who's known as a Hunter player.
Yeah, ErA's been very on point with his cues against his opponents. Seems to have very strong reads so far. Despite that, he's fallen 0-2 in his series so far, but he's looking great versus Jab, and Jab feels like he's getting targeted to me.
Yeah, it definitely feels like getting targeted. Let's see if he gets targeted again in this game. Game 3, ErA versus Jab. Match point for ErA. Jab needs 3 in a row to not fall to 0-2 here in HPL. And look at this. He's queued up a Warlock deck.
Yeah, that's a Warlock deck with an Azure Drake, by the way. I cannot remember the last time I saw Azure Drake in a Warlock deck.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while. Maybe this is like one of those Mal'Ganis builds or something like that with like, some big in-game Soulfires, things like that. But ErA going back to Priest.
Yeah, this really kind of telling you again how much Jab likes to play mid-range strategies. Azure Drake, a very strong 5-drop, looking to get you advantage every step of the way. It almost in a lot of situations, it has taunt because of how scary the spell damage effect can be on that one. But ErA, going back to his comfort zone, I have to believe that he thought Jab was just going to queue up Hunter again.
Yeah, I believe that ErA believes that he was going to queue up Hunter again because, again, it's like one of those things, dance with the girl that brought you. I've gotten so many wins lately with Hunter. I'm going to keep queuing it up, and we've seen Jab stray away from that. And you know what? I actually like him changing it up here.
Yeah, really taking into consideration exactly how this game's going to go and thinking about what's going to happen. ErA, pretty good opening hand here too. I mean, what? That's a Blackwing Corruptor. This is a Dragon Warlock deck.
Yeah, I think we saw someone queue this up day 1 of HPL, if I remember. I think
was ECOP.
Yeah, I was going to say ECOP, yeah. I was just getting there, but this is going to be, whew.
That's a very strong start from ErA here, too. 2 Power Word Shields onto a Zombie Chow. It's not the kind of minion you want to silence, so you can see him kind of like, rolling his eyes a little bit, maybe because his draw is so high curve at this point, but it picks up a Shadow Word Death, not a terrible card, I think, in a matchup like this when your opponent doesn't play anything on turn 1. Circle of Healing is certainly not what he wanted to draw.
Yeah, he's probably worried that if this were a really, really aggressive deck from Jab, that his hand was not going to be good enough to stem the bleeding here. But Jab hasn't done anything yet, so ErA has got to be thinking this has to be handlock.
Wow, this is a very interesting deck that's going on here. So, Twilight Drake, one of the strongest cards I think that you can play against Priest in general.
Yeah, the 4 power getting around almost all the removal from the Priest deck.
Such an imposing presence at this point. Yep, just going to try to get some value out of his Zombie Chow now in terms of actually getting some minion damage in here.
Yeah, chip away, chip away. But again, you're seeing on turn 4, all ErA can do is heal his minion and pass.
With Vol'jin in hand, I'm curious if that's actually like the best play that he wanted to be making, because now he does leave his Zombie Chow vulnerable to something like Mortal Coil. Fortunately for him, Jab doesn't have that in his hand, but he does have Defender of Argus, so he does have a way to take this out. Now, that option is coming into play a little bit early, and this will leave it vulnerable to something like Shadow Word Death.
And there's Shadow Word Death and there's Vol'jin. There's a couple really good options for him here this turn.
Man, what a crazy turn if he had kept that Zombie Chow.
Yeah, if he
at
still had the
7
Zombie
health,
Chow, yeah.
He would have forced his opponent to maybe use something like Dark Bomb. I don't think Jab would have actually killed the Zombie Chow in a position like that. And no play from ErA, just waits. I mean, does this signal anything to Jab? Do you think Jab is potentially thinking about something like maybe Light Bomb in his hand at this point?
I think ErA is trying to bluff a Light Bomb here, and as we saw in the last game, he bluffed really well. Everyone, I mean everyone, thought that was a freezing trap last game.
Yeah, just going to make his push for damage. Sludge Belcher's not going to worry too much about Light Bomb, nor is Defender of Argus, but Sylvanas now, this is a problematic card for Jab at this point. This could very easily swing the game in his favor. There's that Malagos in his hand, but Ironbeak Owl has to be the card he really wants to draw more than anything right now.
Yeah, and you might see him dig into his deck to find Ironbeak Owl. He might have 1 or 2 copies. We don't know how many copies he has in his deck, but you have to give yourself a chance to draw that card when you need it this bad.
Yeah, something else he's going to look at here is how exactly this board's going to be affected if he decides to trade. 50% of the time, ErA's not going to take a card that's super pertinent in a situation like this. Like if he takes the Defender of Argus, he's got it checked with Blackwing Corruptor. If he takes the Sludge Belcher, he can still clear through the first body of it, again, with that Blackwing Corruptor. So maybe this isn't the worst trade in the world here for Jab. He's got a lot to think about.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options for him here. As you said, this is what happens a lot with Warlock. You see a lot of turns since they have so many cards in their hand. They have to sit there and really, really think about all their options and which ones are the best, and it's not always readily just noticeable.
If he's playing this Blackwing Corruptor first, oh, he's going upstairs, and I like it. He's got 7 points of damage directly in his hand, and a bunch of pressure is being applied over to ErA right now. He's got some answers in his hand, though. This isn't the worst case scenario that could have happened.
Yeah, he does have a Shadow Work Death, and the Sylvanas will be taking a minion away from Jab here, so he's got some pretty good options. He could run his Sylvanas into this Twilight Drake. Hopefully not. You might want to Shadow Work Death first, actually, now that I think about it, because you might want to kill the Blackwing Corruptor first, then kill the Twilight Drake, make sure you get one of the other 2 minions, because if you steal the Corruptor, then you don't get to use your Shadow Work Death anymore this turn, but he might have some other options in mind himself.
Yeah, he's still got a Sludge Belcher in his hand, too, so I think he's perfectly fine taking the Blackwing Corruptor in a position like this, but oh, he takes the weakest minion, and you can see him roll his eyes. That was the only one of these minions that he could take that left him in what I would consider a relatively poor position.
Yeah, the old 33%er coming in, not what ErA wanted there.
Shadow Word Death still available to him. He can stem the bleeding a little bit. Sludge Belcher can also do the same thing.
And ErA is at 10 life here, and Jab has a ton of direct damage in his hand, as you said, and not to mention he's got that Malagos sitting back there.
Yep, so just going to go for board development here. He's going to play Northshire Cleric. Maybe hope that can stem a little bit of bleeding. Maybe he won't play Northshire Cleric.
Yeah, he's going to play Zombie Chow and heal up here.
Yeah, you got to hold it in his hand and has game plans with that one in mind. If he recovers this board state, looking to pick up extra cards later on. Jab, not enough damage to kill him outright this turn, but certainly a pretty heavy initiative over to him. Oh, that's a very good draw right now.
Yeah, Implosion is going to progress his board while stemming some of ErA's board development here. He just has to make sure he doesn't get the 2 damage one here. It won't be the worst thing in the world. He has a Mortal Coil.
Wow, gets the full 4, and ErA rolls his eyes again. Everything seems to be falling apart for him this game. He does not have a way to check this Sludge Belcher adequately at the moment.
That is a pretty big draw here with the Circle of Healing that he has in his hand.
Wow, you talk about turnarounds. That was it. He's going to be able to completely clear this board.
Yeah, what a great draw here for ErA. I think only a Slime is going to be left behind here.
No, he can make sure he takes out the Slime, too. He can just hero power right behind it. So he plays Circle of Healing, runs the Zombie Chow into Sludge Belcher. Bam! Everything's taken care of.
Seems like a pretty clean turn from him here.
Yeah, wants to take his time anyway. He still does have some other options available, but he wants to make sure he's taking the best one. So thinking through all his plays, very critical point to be making. Good to get the Zombie Chow in attack first. And look at that 5 damage to your opponent when you got the Alkanai Soul Priest in play.
The old combo that we saw some of the Priest decks doing, the aggro Priest, get my Zombie Chow in, get my Alkanai Soul Priest in play, have it die and deal 5 to you.
Yeah, play it with Baron Rivendare, deal 10 damage to the Zombie Chows.
We're going deep on that one.
Yeah. That deck didn't work out so well.
No, it usually didn't. You usually had cards like Mind Blast in your deck, and they weren't very good.
So still, initiative is going to be back over to Jab here now. If he draws something very powerful, this could be so bad for ErA at this point. Picks up an Abusive Sergeant. Not the best draw in the world right now, but Big Game Hunters could be more than enough pressure to start pushing through here.
Yeah, I fully expect to see him develop some more Big Game Hunters into play and try to end this game over the next turn.
Oh,
that was
Azure
a big
Drake.
draw.
Yeah, that's actually going to leave him with 10 cards in his hand if he plays that too, so he would burn a draw afterwards. So it is something he's going to consider as well. And so, yep, just because of that, he's going to go with the Anti-Heal Bot instead.
Yeah, just get a threat into play, use all of his mana here, get his life total back up to 28. I don't think he's really worried about dying anytime soon, but also this plays around ever getting stolen by a Cabal Shadow Priest, but ErA with a Sludge Belcher is building up his defenses again.
I'm still going to hold on to the Northshire Cleric, looking for a turn where he can utilize that effect. Is that enough damage? That is 10 damage. He's 1 off lethal right now, but he's got Azure Drake in his hand, and he's got Malagos. How does Malagos get checked in a position like this?
I don't think ErA is going to have a way to check Malagos in a position like this.
Is he potentially worried about something like Mind Control, maybe Vol'jin plus a Holy Nova? Those are things he's going to account for in a situation like this.
Getting your Malagos mind controlled has got to be just the worst feeling in the entire world. And I would love to see it happen, but it would just be the worst feeling ever as the player.
The Holy Nova afterwards.
Oh, don't even get me started. That would be the best Holy Nova of all time. I've never actually seen that happen. I want to see it happen.
I've never seen a Malagos Holy Nova. Might potentially see it here. They would have to top deck Mind Control, of course, but just gonna go with Azure Drake. I like this. Oh, this could spell the end here. I mean, he's got a chance to actually end this game right now, and he's gonna Soulfire first. Discards a Big Game Hunter, and there's the Dark Bomb and a second Soulfire. Jab is going to pick this game up with direct damage. Wow, Azure Drake being such a key card to this strategy right now.
Yeah, as you said, Azure Drake a key card, but I think the key part of this game was turns 4 and 5 for ErA, barely doing anything. You saw ErA on turn 4 heal up his zombie chow that had a couple enchantments on it, and then on turn 5 do actually nothing and pass. And that had to be the deciding point of this game. It let Jab develop his board a little bit, get a bunch of damage in, and then you saw him finish it off with some burn spells.
Yeah, really great aggressive play there too, recognizing that trading with what was on the board was not going to be a winning game plan. Instead, he built the board tension, let Sylvanas do whatever Sylvanas is going to do, got lucky on that one steal. You know, fate decided that Jab was going to be the one who was favored today. But like you said, that big one is that, you know, ErA, all of his cards and priests tended to be reactive that were in his hand. And as a result of that, no action on turn 5, and that gave Jab a big window to take initiative.
Yeah, Jab, it went right through that window, took initiative, and won the game, and got a pretty big top deck there off that Azure Drake, able to kill him that turn, and didn't have to worry about any Malygos shenanigans or anything there. So we're seeing Jab get a win here, putting the match at 2-1 ErA, so he's got to win 2 more now, no longer 3, only 2. So we'll see if Jab can get these last 2 wins and get on the board here in HPL. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.